Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about, the basics of back training. For me, generally, my back is my most well-developed body part. It's noted even more so in person than in videos because scale can be a little bit different. But the thing is, when people ask me what I do for my back, it's always just been very simple, very basic stuff. And this is an example of just stuff I've done, within the last couple weeks. Now, obviously, these videos come out 4 to 6 weeks after I make them, a lot of these informative ones, and that's okay. They come out a little later, sometimes a month. I keep a backlog. But as of, the last couple weeks, these are things I've done. You see me doing sets of, pretty strict pull-ups, right? I'm doing some fairly strict bent over barbell rows there. Now, a lot of times I have a history of doing pin lay rows, which is a barbell row off the floor. Sometimes I cheat on them more than others. Like you guys have seen me do, rep work with like 250 pounds on those. A little bit of swing, but different movement. You'll see me through here doing dumbbell rows, right? One-arm dumbbell rows, pullovers, and conventional deadlifts. And these are honestly, every single thing is covered here. And quite frankly, I would say, even without the deadlifts, I feel like deadlifts just kind of add a finishing touch of thickness due to the traps and erectors and everything else, because deadlifts are really a posterior chain exercise. Okay. Yeah, I'm aware that EMG studies show, large amounts of lat activation, but that's EMG studies. You can't conclude a great deal about muscle gains from EMGs, quite frankly. You just really can't. So, but activation is absolutely there, and I think a lot of us feel our lats and our traps and everything on the conventional deadlift, and that has to be taken into consideration. And of course, you'll see me doing some pullovers here. I like pullovers a lot. Started adding them in the last couple months, and I feel like they've really, really done a lot for me personally, for shoulder mobility, chest, and to lat. Because I do feel these tremendously in my middle back. And again, what we have to keep in mind when we're talking about the back, it's not just the lats, right? If it was just the lats that we were talking about, we could get away with mainly just stuff like pull-ups and lat pull-downs, and we would probably be okay. But when you look at the totality of the back, the traps are just as big as the lats are in terms of muscle mass. Like if you look at cadavers and things, the shoulders, the delts, are larger than any muscle in the upper body. But the posterior delt definitely counts as part of the back. Rhomboids, teres minor, erectors, all of that stuff are then smaller muscles in there. So there's a lot going on with the back. It is not just, hey, your back. The people think it's just the lats. That's just one muscle. It's a very visible muscle because it's spread thin and wide. But in terms of actual size, it's not as big as you think it is because it's fairly thin compared to some of these other muscles that run deeper. So again, when we're looking at building a back, you're looking at not just, can we get wide lats, but can we get overall improved thickness all the way through? And that's where things like the traps really come in. Even your erectors and stuff down below to some extent. So you really want complete back development. But again, I'm of the opinion that the combination of these movements will generally get it done. And what I'm really looking at is range of motion, the stretch put on everything, right? Lengthened positions. Now we can get into a minute of if people really want isometrics. Like if you truly believe isometrics add a lot, I don't know for sure that they do. I've always been skeptical of that, but I don't ever rule them out. But the deadlift has you covered. It really is the king of isometrics as far as back development goes, because the lats and the traps are put into such a powerful isometric position, way more than you can do with other movements. So to me, it's always seemed rather silly that a lot of people, usually people who have no back development, mind you, right? They have no back development. We'll always talk about focusing on that squeezing, but it's with a little light weight. When the deadlift gives you that isometric contraction with a lot of weight, 400, 500 pounds, maybe more for reps, right? You guys have seen me do 500 for 10, when I'm belted up and with a deadlift bar and stuff. Of course, in this video, it's only a 405 for 12s, but keep in mind there's no belt. I'm using a deadlift bar, so on and so forth. All right, a little bit more difficult. But outside of that isometric, it really is about getting stretch positions on a lot of stuff. Lengthened positions are really where the magic happens. So if you watch even these dumbbell rows, notice I go to a stretch at the bottom. Stretch within my ability to do so. You'll see it a lot better on this right side. When I switch the dumbbell over, you notice I come all the way down and stretch it. You'll notice on those rows I was doing there, I stretched them at the bottom. Okay? Since I'm not touching the floor to get a full reset, we stretch them all the way down, then I bring them up to the chest. Same thing here on these. You don't see me rowing them to my stomach. I'm bringing them all the way up to the chest, trying to get the longest range of motion that I can while getting a good stretch. My pull-ups the same way. Again, I don't have the best shoulder mobility. It's something I've been working on a lot lately. I'm about to be 47. But I get the deepest stretch that I can get on those pull-ups, so I come to a stop. So again, working with the range of motion you have. But for me, even these pullovers are one of the tools I'm using. Because why? If we can improve that range of motion over time, if we can get our joints and our muscles to where we do have mobility to get into deeper stretched positions, then we have the potential to gain more muscle. So again, you'll see so many people on a lot of these back movements really shortchanging that stretch. And the truth is that's really where a lot of the magic happens, right? If you really, really want a big, thick back, you should be trying to stretch on as many of these movements as you can, right? You don't short stroke it. And then if we really want to discuss range of motion at the top, quit swinging a weight down to your stomach, right? Bring it up to your chest. Okay, do these things through the range of motion that your back will go through. And again, our range of motion will vary from person to person. Again, noting on pull-ups, I don't have the best range of motion in the world on pull-ups. Okay, I don't, and that's very, very obvious. But it is what I'm capable of doing, so therefore we do the range of motion that we are physically capable of, right? We do the range of motion that we're capable of. Take sets to fatigue. And stop worrying so much about the squeezing and contracting and worry about the stretch. Because I think at the end of the day, even if you believe in that whole isometric squeeze and contract, aren't you getting that on the deadlifts? Think about what's happening on that. You have your shoulder blades locked in, down and back. You're loading way more isometric into that squeeze position than you can ever with a pull-up, a row, a lat pull down. It's all here. So on those, you can really focus on where the money is, and that's really getting that deep stretch, okay? And I think that's also where the pullovers shine, because they put us into a completely different stretch position, and it's a tool that can help increase mobility over time to build an even more developed back. But back training just isn't that complicated. I think people want to mess with a lot of silly stuff that's not necessary, trying to line up fibers and single arm lat pull downs at certain angles. None of it's necessary. It's just not. And it's not even based on real science or even real biomechanics in humans. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.